My name is Fred Cook, and I drive school bus.
My name is Leanne Murchie, and I'm a school bus driver for TCAPS. It's been a very wonderful experience.
When I first hired in, one of the previous bus drivers told me that this particular job, driving school bus, is the best job on earth. So I immediately took to it, and I have to agree that this is one of the best jobs that anyone can do.
What prompted me in the very beginning, I have a college degree, and she said, "You're in the safest vehicle in the world on the road." So I thought, well, I'm gonna try. Because I would be on the same time schedule as my own children. And when they were off, I was off. When holidays, I was there. So it was the best of both worlds. TCAPS offers jobs elsewhere within the system.
Between routes, I used to, for 12, 13 years, I did lunch duty over at East Middle School, and now I paint.
They're real good about finding people the hours that they need during the course of the day to make the job great. We have Mesa Insurance. The whole district has it. It's awesome. It's the best health insurance. We offer a 401k. There's a sign-on bonus. It's a win-win situation.
The most important thing, I think, coming to work at TCAPS is you understand that you are part of a team. It's a part of a collective. It's not just bus drivers and then versus teachers. It's not that. We all are in this thing called education together.
If a person generally likes kids, this is a perfect job.
So I'm talking to kids all day, and that experience is really heartwarming, and I continue to understand what it means to be a part of the community.
You are an educator. You have a chance to touch children's lives every day. And don't think that you don't. You are such an important part of the wheel of education.
The new time of 4:30. So I will call this meeting of the Board Finance and Operations Committee to order. The committee would like to welcome the audience. Viewers may watch board committee meetings live on TV 190 or online at tcaps.net/board. Recorded meetings may be viewed on demand at the same address. The committee has set aside this time for public comment. Julie, do we have any public comments? All right. Let's see, moving on to the Traverse Indoor Sports presentation, Dr. Ben Wagner.
Okay, so with us today, we have Jessica Sullivan. So Jessica is a businesswoman and parent in our region. And so she is working quite a while with a group that is concentrating on some business development within a program called the Traverse Indoor Sports Commission. And so they have been looking at different ideas for opportunities for youth opportunities for multiple sports activities, and so she is asked the opportunity to do a presentation, so which she will do to this committee as well as exec tomorrow, to have an opportunity for board members in a little bit more of a smaller area to ask questions, thoughts, things, as she has some items to present, and very exciting work, and so wanted to give her some time to do that and for board members to be able to ask questions and see the presentation. So with that, I'll pass it off to you.
Thank you. I appreciate the introduction. I appreciate everybody allowing me the chance to come here and present to you. Also, a little bit of additional background. I did also serve on the Grand Traverse Economic Development Corporation Board and served as the board chair there for 6 years, and then also served on the local Children's House Montessori School Board as the board chair there. So children and education and community and economic growth is very near and dear to my heart. And so I do not actually have currently any children in TCAPS. They all go to the Children's House. But as we were looking at this and I got involved with the coalition, I started to think about we have a need in this area, and I think it's something that everybody that I've spoken with so far expressed a lot of interest, so I'm all about us trying to find a solution. So that's where I'm coming to you today. So what I want to talk about today is an opportunity for a Northern Michigan field house. And what that is I want to first kind of take you back one, where we are talking about, this will work for me. There we go. It's a little bit, I think it's thinking. There we go.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yep. I want to first educate and bring everybody up to speed with the Traverse Indoor Sports Coalition. So this is a coalition of government, nonprofit, and business partners that are working together in this region in pursuit of trying to find a new indoor athletic facility in the Grand Traverse region. So listed there are some of the members. And so this coalition formed in 2018. And they came together with everybody just kind of talking about, we have this need. What are we going to try to do? Everybody is talking about, okay, we live up here. It's cold most of the time of the year. What are we going to do in these off seasons? And as I'm sure all of you are aware, space in the gyms are very hard to get into. So the mission of this coalition group was to develop potentially an indoor athletic facility through partnerships, communication, and resource development out there for us to be able to host something that can satisfy and solve the goal of court and turf facilities. And so that was in 2018, this group started to get together. And then,
Might be a battery issue. It's probably technical.
There we go. Okay, thank you. So Trevor and Whitney over at TC Tourism engaged an organization called Sports Facilities Advisories, or what we refer to as SFA, and they paid for the fee to conduct a feasibility study and an analysis here in Traverse City. And this firm is a national organization. They're a consulting firm that specializes specifically in planning and funding services for youth and amateur sports, recreation. They also have a significant background in managing these, as well as developing and providing oversight. So they have a significant background. And we have a full report that I happily would provide to this group if you want to see the full 50-page. That provides quite a bit of detail. So they went and did this report in 2018, and then we got the group back together. Pandemic happened, got the group back together last year and asked them to refresh it. Obviously, construction costs have changed, demographics have changed, a lot more people are relocating to this region. What does this look like? So some of the key areas that I just wanted to highlight for this committee are some of the demographic results. The following chart summarizes the demographics, also the socioeconomical analysis for our region, and it projects out the population. So this is taking a radius, with Traverse City being at the center, what's the population 10 minutes out, all the way out to 2 hours out. And then it also down at the bottom gives some of that US average of spending for recreational lessons. And then it was, let's dig a little bit deeper. Part of the process was to analyze the opportunity. Is there even an opportunity if we were to build something that was indoor in this region? Could it be sustainable? Is there a need for it? And so they listed out the sports and activities that are there. And again, taking Traverse City at the center, building a radius around it. What's the activity per sport activity, 10 minutes out, all the way out to 2 hours out. And then they dug even deeper, what facilities currently exist. And for those of you who have been involved in this or have had children or grandchildren or family friends, you know there's not much up here once you get north of Grand Rapids. So we have the Grit Shop, which is a smaller, I would say a court-size type indoor turf facility that's out in the Grand area. We also have the Grand Traverse Resort and Spa. They've done a great job with adding their removable courts out there in the tennis area, so we have those now. And then Maury Courts is the next closest thing that has turf, ice, as well as courts, and that's in Mount Pleasant. And then when you look at additional turf facilities, the closest thing that we now also have is Petoskey now has a field house. And then when you look at just court indoor facilities, you'll see that the majority of the courts that we have are TCAPS gym space, and then some of the YMCA. So we really don't have something that is significant that's up here that can solve for some of the requests and the needs that have come up. And then we did also go one step further and just started to think about, okay, what other Michigan school districts exist out there that have indoor field houses right now? I'm sure you guys saw the ticker last week where it announced that Boyne City has their field house. We put that up there, as well as Elkton. Petoskey has their field house that's over there now. Jenison, Jackson, Brighton, Negaunee, Caledonia. And then we just put some enrollment numbers out there so you can kind of compare apples to apples. So what we did is we started to think about what's the regional need, what's the potential impact. And so we know that there is at least a minimum of 15,000 square footage lacking in our community of indoor space. We also know that if this was something that we were able to accomplish and solve for this need, it has the potential at a minimum to impact, when you look at TCAP's community, club use, indoor fieldhouse space can impact over 10,000 regional youths. So as we started to process that, and we started to look at a solution, that's kind of where I came in, because I was honestly, just selfishly, was traveling around going to soccer tournaments and basketball tournaments and going, how can we not have this in Traverse City? What is going on? So I started with my business hat throwing together, okay, what if I put together, I know investors, I'm gonna pitch, I'm gonna go out and why don't we do a big, enormous entertainment complex, and I can help fundraise and find investors for $75 million, and what can we do? And the hard part that we run into up here is that's not a really good business model, because one, we have to find real estate up here, which we know is really hard to find. Some of the best, as we started to look, this group, at the different real estate opportunities that are out here, the one spot that we wanted was where the tribe owns it. So that's kind of hard for us to potentially get a deal for that as well. And then it's just the ROI on it is not sustainable when we start looking at it up here, just because we would have to outsource for management. We would have to outsource also for the off seasons that we have going on, and then in the summertime, and it just, the ROI on it and the number that we were looking at was significantly higher. So then we started to talk about, okay, what's an alternative solution? Could we build something smaller? Could we build something in the ballpark between 10 and 15 million that can still solve this need that we're looking to accomplish? And can it also get done in a timely fashion? Because we could potentially, you know, if we wanted to do the business one, but that's gonna take, 5+ years. Is there something smaller that we could do? And so that's why I'm here today, because as we started throwing our heads together and we're looking at some opportunities, we came up with a proposed solution with our coalition. And I've been working a lot, just to kind of pause for a minute, I have been working a lot directly with Warren Call and Trevor Takash. They've kind of been my right and left hand individual as we've been pushing this forward. And so TC Tourism, Traverse Connect, and other community partners were proposing to look to the TCAP school board to build 2 indoor fieldhouse facilities. One, and as we've been looking at real estate and options in the land that's available, we believe that one solution could be we build one on West Senior High campus and one on Central Senior High campus. We would propose that the 2 facilities would be owned and operated by TCAPs and their athletic department. And we believe that half of the cost, this would be a private-public collaboration. where half of the cost could be privately fundraised, and half of the cost to build would be paid for by the TCAPS 2024 millage. So what we did is, as we started kind of digging around with this, I went and had the opportunity to chat with the athletic directors at both Central and West. Because it's, okay, if you build it, will they come? Field of Dreams type of thing. What is this gonna look like though? How are we gonna actively share the space? And will it even be used? So we wanted to make sure that if we make an investment in this, is it gonna be able to be used? And the reality of it is when they did a mock schedule of November through April, they have the opportunity to potentially fill it. So it potentially could look like this, where ideally about 50% of the usage would be available for community use. There's also space in there for there to be music and band if they wanted to march. There also potentially could be an indoor track where the track could be open and individuals can go in there in the seasons, in the winter seasons, walk around. It also allows for health and physical education to be held out there as well. And then it does also allow in the morning and obviously right after school for TCAPS athletics to be used there. And again, as I mentioned, when we were looking at ideal space, we did look at both of the campuses, and this is just a proposal, an idea of potentially where they could be put. So our thought on this is we are presenting it to this group here today. Our ask would be that we look to potentially get and gain your approval and your support that this is something that we could potentially go out and start fundraising and do kind of start testing the waters. We have been having conversations with local legislatures as well as other opportunities out there with the Great Lakes Sports Commission as well as other private donors in the region. But it's one of those things where we wouldn't want to start doing formal asks unless we were going to get support from the TCAPS board. So our thought would be in March, we obviously this today and tomorrow that we present, and then the thought would be that it gets included in the millage proposal. And then it gives us a whole year to go out and do private fundraising to secure the other half of the funding. There would be a vote with the goal of us breaking ground in spring, and it would be available and ready to use in November of 2025. You're obviously a finance committee, and I have a finance background, so I know this is going to be right where everybody starts to go is what does this look like? So it's roughly estimated that the cost would be $10 million each for a total of $20 million. Again, the coalition proposed that half of the cost to build would be paid through private funding. The other half would be included in part of that millage renewal. And then what would happen is contingent upon obviously the availability that's out there with staff, is that it does also open up those courts inside as well as offer potential adjacency revenue for TCAPS with indoor turf rentals, tournaments, indoor court rentals, tournaments. And one of the things I do just want to point out as well is this just also doesn't have the academic impact or the athletic impact. It also has the academic impact. So opening up that gym space, as all of you know, allows for things like robotics to be able to host tournaments, and then they're not competing with a soccer or potentially even a baseball or softball not being able to host spring stuff. So it does open up the gym in the space. And then we did some of the estimates that we have out there based on utilities. What would the additional incremental cost be for utilities are included in there. And then I did put in some of the footnotes what the assumptions were. So 26 weeks, November through April, this is assuming 18 weeks of it are used, which I definitely think that's very conservative given the need that's out there. And I put this in here just for all of your benefit, but I know that this is something that I think is really important to highlight for our region as well as for TCAPS. You know, this provides a very quick regional indoor solution for solving a need that we have. It allows for TCAPS to have a safe mixed-use asset. I'm going to highlight safe because I'm sure if any of you have gone to the gyms and seen the way some of these teams are practicing, it sometimes isn't very safe, especially when you're looking at baseball and softball hitting balls in in the gym. I think it also allows for new potential social health and wellness programs when you think about year-round and keeping people healthy. There's potential adjacency revenue, as I talked about, with tournaments, clubs, leagues. And then I also think it's an opportunity for TCAP's brand and marketability to be increased. It's something that we're seeing across the state and as well as across the country, where you're seeing a lot of schools are offering indoor field houses or indoor turf for athletics, as well as to provide solutions there. And then obviously not to mention potential regional economic impact with indoor tournaments and that. So that is what I brought to you all today. I will pause and allow all of you to kind of take that in, and please ask me any questions.
Can you go back to the, yeah. So, my initial question is, who would be responsible for the replacement costs in 10 years of a field turf?
It would be a TCAPS expense.
And so, I mean, roughly, probably, we just approved turf a couple months
Yeah,
ago.
I mean,
$100
you don't have all the
million
drainage and all
dollars-ish.
that stuff, so it's a carpet replacement.
So it's not,
essentially.
it wouldn't be quite $1 million.
Oh, no.
No?
You would be looking at, so if you took the turf alone, like the bill for both fields, contract I just actually saw come across $841,000 for both fields.
Okay.
So you'd be like about, in today's dollars, about
500,
$420,000 for
400.
the carpet replacement.
So
Every 10 years.
we would need $50,000 a year just to set aside to replace, and depending on how much usage it gets.
Yep.
Yeah, once the-
So
Oh, 10 to 12 years.
I mean, initially, and I don't have obviously not all the details on
Yeah.
here, but I mean, 50,000 to set aside just for turf replacement. You probably need some others set aside for building replacement costs, just normal building replacement costs. 50,000 estimate for utilities, and only 72,000 of income. So it's not really quite self-sustaining.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. If you do just kind of the quick and dirty on the math.
So I think you gotta, play that. I will tell you that, varying, it's hard to kind of say because there's not one here.
Sure.
There are districts like Ypsilanti, Lincoln right now built one, and they're generating $500,000 in income off it.
And like you said, this is
But
conservative.
it's a large
This
urban
is-
area.
well-
It's a large urban area that isn't necessarily Traverse City, so.
Yeah, and the one thing I want to point out is this is assuming that 20 hours are rented for 18 weeks. So 20 hours out of 7 days a week for 18 weeks out of the year. That's very conservative when you think about the space. So, and this also does assume $150 for an entrance fee with 20 teams with potentially one tournament a month if you're going to do that. So it's, to your point, exactly, it's very, very, very conservative. And again, but I don't know. I also want to be very realistic that there potentially could be a situation where the two athletic directors look at this and they go, man, we could use 100% of the time of this, right? So that's something to take into consideration as well.
So I had another question in terms of, I mean, this is basically your upfront costs that would be co-shared, private, and TCAPS funded. But your earlier slide said TCAPS would own and operate this, so then would we need additional staff? Or are we talking adding this to our athletic director's plates? Because if we're talking additional staff, there's a trade-off there. There's an opportunity cost for us with social workers and teachers, et cetera, that we've also been struggling to find funding for. So we should be disclosing that cost here too.
That's a great point. And that is something that I have brought up multiple times with the athletic directors when I've had conversations with them, just trying to gauge on the usage. Initially, my understanding is that would be something that would be in their area.
Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Looks like you might have
No,
questions.
no, I'm
I-
listening.
So I apologize. I shouldn't have been negative at first. I think this is really exciting,
you're
and
fine.
I think that there's definitely a need. And so I'm excited about the potential. I do think that there is definitely a need for indoor activities. And I think, especially at this time of the year when I think we're all probably feeling like really looking forward to warmer weather. So I think that this is a really good opportunity. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And I think that, these are the important things to flesh out, for the board. I think that we can, give some direction for Jessica and others to point them at some other districts that are doing this. Jennison is kind of in about 3 months in theirs. Brighton's about 3-4 months in theirs. And interested how they've kind of tackled that, and, have they seen their revenues to be able to balance out those additional costs? I don't know. I mean, I think that's something that, needs to be investigated as a part of the whole piece there for the board, to take a look at.
Do other facilities like this have like removable hard courts for basketball tournaments, or is it all just like soccer, field hockey, football type stuff?
That's a great question. Some of them are different. So I believe Jennison and Brighton right now just have the indoor turf with the track around it. And so these are prefabbed, ready to go. That's kind of what this little side area of this picture, let me look here. Right there on the right, that's kind of what it looks like. Just a little bit longer with an indoor track. But I mean, you go to some of the bigger areas and they have courts and a foyer and locker rooms and all of that. And those are completely different numbers, right?
So when you talked about the smaller version, is that something smaller than this, or
This is the
this
smaller
is the smaller
version.
version?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the one we were initially looking at, after we kind of got over what could we make the large one be, was doing a dome. And the domes, actually, realistically, as we were looking into it and having the conversations with SFA, their shelf life is actually, you have to look at replacing those a lot quicker. And they're just not sustainable long term. So these, you brought up a really good point, Andrew, about looking at the shelf life of this asset, depreciation, when are we going to need to start putting maintenance, how much we're going to need to save every single year. That's going to be something we'll realistically have to look at. And I agree with Dr. Van Wagner that, this is a great opportunity for us to reach out to other districts that are doing it and what are they doing to solve that problem. But it just it did not look like a good solution for the northern Michigan area for us to do a dome up here.
I would like to, in the analysis, when we do the cost-benefit analysis, I would like to see presentations on one field house as opposed to two, maybe have both in there.
So with the idea that maybe one central location that could serve both sides, potentially.
And you can look at that. The struggle you have is then you lose, generally, you have to put it at one high school or the other, or in the middle, and then you lose use of it during the school day.
Sure.
It's no longer a health and physical education facility. You lose half of the day of access.
So wouldn't the schools still have their gyms, though, for their regular school day? I thought this was more evenings, weekends,
Not
summer.
necessarily. You could
Like-
use it for kickball, you can use it for, a whole nother gym facility from that standpoint. So that the districts that have put them right next to their schools are able to have access to it through the whole day. And again, not a non-negotiable. I'm just letting you know that, that's the one drawback of one, is that, and then you have the issues of, when it rains, it snows, this or that, who gets it? That's a big part of it too that you really have to struggle with. To be honest, it's the one issue we run in with One Thurlby Field, is constantly who gets it, who doesn't, what's this, who plays on Friday night, who plays on Saturday. Those are a lot of the logistical issues, with it. And there are some districts that have, like Jackson did just a half of one. And so, you could consider even like a half. The problem with that is that you're not able to host the tournaments and things that require the full regulation fields that some of the bigger facilities downstate have. That's an issue from that standpoint, is talking with Jackson. And so like Brighton decided to go with the full. They were originally going to go with just a half. And after they looked at all that, they figured that to get the revenue and all that stuff they wanted it to be the full-size field to bring in the full, even some college teams that have, done spring, like some winter practices for a week, rented it out, things like that. So there are cost, benefits and pluses and negatives all the way around in all those aspects. But I think as Jason, you know, as I've talked to who sat on this committee, I think that a lot of the folks within TC Tourism and all that, they're really looking for that opportunity of filling hotels, all that, bringing everybody that they can. And so a half-size field really isn't doing that, you know, that the full-size fields are from the facilities in across the state.
Yeah, and we didn't talk about land acquisition, right? So what's the vision for where this would be?
They would be at the
Oh,
schools.
so on
the
existing
property.
land that,
Yeah.
that both high
Yeah,
schools own?
if you look here at this slide, this is one suggested solution of where they could potentially go. One of the other areas too, you know, I touched on it a little bit on the last slide about a safe location. This also, as we were thinking about it, and, you know, on campus, off campus, west side, east side, central, however you want it to be. The one thing as we started to think about it that it also could be used for is we like the visibility of both of it. Obviously, the parking that's there, to Dr. Van Wagner's point, it allows with TC Tourism, as they were thinking about when you host tournaments. It's very common when you go down to the larger areas where you're going across country or going across the city to go back and forth between a field to get from one game to another. It allows for people to stay at a whole host of hotels that are in the area. But one of the things we like about this location too is it provides for an additional facility for these schools to have in the event of some type of a safety or a security situation. So when you think about it, because like let's use West as an example in that location, it's not adjacent to the high school. So if you think about it in a situation where those kids have to evacuate, where do they go right now in the winter if there's a fire drill or anything? It's in the parking lots, it's out on the sidewalk, you're kind of corralling the kids. This allows for the schools to have one convenient, safe location to kind of convene the kids in any type of a security situation. And then same with Central, you know, in a security situation like that, maybe they go to the track. I believe they actually go to the Civic Center right now if there was something dangerous going on over there. This allows us to kind of have one facility where people could go that's not necessarily attached to the school, but it's still on campus.
And these would all have to be fleshed out with, you know, architects and land, and, you know, there are some other places at West. Central, not so much, but West has, you know, back where the practice football fields are, there's even some property in back that, you know, could be looked at for possible, you know, purchase. I mean, lots of different thoughts there, but this is just kind of giving a sense of on campus, you know, is where they could be.
And would you have to weigh that against the closed campus issues for West as well?
As far as
The coming and going of the public?
Yeah, I mean, you generally, you know, these things aren't, you know, generally in the public much during the school day. You know, generally it is that the public after school weekends, you know, from that element. But could be a point to, definitely something to think about if you thought you were.
Central has an elementary school right on the other side of that track as well.
Yep, that's true.
Yeah, and just going back to Trustee Bird's idea of possibly one central location, I mean, does TCAPS have land right now, like around Sabin, for example, that's a central location where there would be ample space?
Not by Sabin, but we do have some property over by Center Ice that Christine has showed me, that is, and we even toyed around the area around Thurlby that could be as well. It would be tight, but with the softball fields not gonna be used anymore, we do have a drawing of what one would look like that from that with one as well. But again, the hard part of one is we've just faced it with Thurlby of that. But again, it is definitely an option that's there that, you know, has been thrown into the mix and thought of. But there is a pretty good chunk of land over by Center Ice, is my understanding as well.
I just wanted to go back, to the population projections. You said this study was done a few years ago, is that right?
So this study for the demographics was initially done in 2018, and then they refreshed it last year. So
Okay.
this is done by SFA.
So I'm wondering if we have one for youth specifically. I mean, I'm sold on the idea that there's an existing need for our youth to have indoor rec facilities,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong. But you know, this is a little different than what we're seeing.
Not really, because this doesn't break down age.
Yeah.
So
And
it
that's
is
what I'm
projected
wondering.
to see age, but as far as kids,
Yeah.
we have our projections that are countywide that do show the decrease with birth rates and stuff
Right,
like that.
right. So that's what I'm getting at is like, really, this should be focused on youth because they're going to be the primary users, right? So I think it would be helpful if we could actually see some growth projections for the market that's actually going to be use these facilities.
Yeah. I think then it would also, to that point, to add on to that, I think it would also be important to then also, even though we know the demographics in that area might be decreasing, you're starting to see youth athletics and clubs increasing. And if one of the things that, as we've learned with SFA, is as a result of the pandemic, that's one of the things that they've seen jump significantly, is those club and youth organizations and extracurricular and athletic activities. So, but I do want to just, if I can go back to Trustee Bird's comment about a cost-benefit analysis and pulling together one versus two, and I absolutely, we can pull that together for you. I think that would be really beneficial for this group to see.
Thanks,
happy
yeah.
to do that.
To me, I think it's a great idea. I mean, I love it, but,
Yeah.
you know, in the event that we're thinking about all these other variables, like, can we afford this in the future? It's
Yep.
great to start with one,
Yep.
if that's where we have to go with it, rather than two. And then, you know, maybe add it. Who knows?
Did you say that you have some districts in mind that we could also pull from their experience? Like maybe we have a couple of case study
We do.
examples?
We do. And there are some that are a little bit into, a ways into it, and there are some
Mm-hmm.
ones that are rather new into it. You know, in that they were on her list there, that, you know, we could definitely, you know, I could test the 80s with starting to gather from their colleagues that information and those things
And
from that standpoint.
were these the ones that you had listed before, were those the ones that were comparable in population for children
Some,
or students?
I mean, you know, there's nobody at this point that I'm aware of that's as big as us, but there's some that are half and have like one Class A high school. So like Brighton, for instance, you know, is a Class A high school, gonna be very similar to the size of Traverse City West High School. Jenison, same way, is going to be one. You know, we're unique in that being the 18th largest, that there are only 17 larger than us from that aspect. So they would be the ones I would say at this point, you know, Brighton, Jackson, you know, Jenison, those would be ones that, you know, and then Ypsilanti, Lincoln would be the other that I'd throw in there that's not on that list. That's one I had the chance to just briefly a week ago talk to the superintendent, just saw him actually and was talking. And he had mentioned that, you know, they've generated about $500,000 off of theirs. But I have not had the chance to see that one or pictures, but I think that would be one to get some data and some things off of as well.
Yeah. And with similar, I mean, we're unique, obviously, but, you know,
Right.
with similar urban populations.
Right.
We probably have more of a appeal for traveling tournaments as well, just our area, so.
I think that's the part that a lot of, as I've had the chance to talk with Jessica and Warren and Trevor and those folks on it, and Scott has too, as he's let you know, is that, you know, if you do, the appeal, I think economically for a lot of the folks in the business sector here is there are weekends where our hotels are pretty empty. You know, and this would be an ability to fill a whole lot of hotel rooms up in that aspect. But, you know, I think that all the questions you have are really good questions. I think are things that definitely need to be thought about and put into that picture. And I'd be happy to, you know, work with Jessica and you know, give her that and the ADs to make connections with their colleagues to try and get the information that the board's interested in.
On the upside, with these crazy weather shifts, it would be nice, right?
Yes. I mean, there are some times, I mean, we've had it before, right, on Mother's Day right around Mother's Day where it snowed. And we're trying to have kids at soccer tournaments and it's not happening. So as our seasons are becoming more unpredictable, unfortunately, I think there definitely is a need for it. And so we're just looking for a way to get a solution. And I do believe, based on my conversations on the private side, sector side, there is a big enough desire and a want for people to solve for this that I do think that fundraising piece, and as well as with other dollars that are out there, this is something that we could accomplish and get done for our community. So I think it would be a great win for everybody involved.
One last question from me. Could
Yeah.
you roll back to the members of your partnership?
Yeah.
So, from TCAPS, who have been the representatives that you've worked with?
So we've had the athletic directors have been involved in the conversations, as well as Scott, as he's mentioned to this group.
Okay. And just to be clear, I think on his behalf, he did it in his personal capacity.
That is correct. He did it
not
in his
as
capacity and
the
his
president of
interest
the board.
was shorts. That is correct.
Okay.
And again, this group started long ago, long before me. You know, they've been meeting and talking through this. They've been in the paper and different things like that.
Yeah.
So.
And there are other members of organizations that are not listed on here yet. This was just a summary of some of our key stakeholders in our region that we wanted to list here, but our group has been as large as 30 people. You know, T-Bays, Center Ice, St. Francis, everybody has an interest in it. I've been, besides Scott, have been the only other individual from the private sector that have kind of stepped up and wanted to sit on this to help find a solution. So I think everybody has agreed with it. It's now then just trying to kind of find what we want to do about it.
Excellent.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Jessica, what was your last name again? I'm sorry.
Sullivan?
Sullivan, thank you.
Yes.
So we'll see you at the March board meeting? Is that the plan?
Well,
my
she,
goal.
no, she will be at tomorrow's
Oh, okay.
executive committee.
Okay.
And then the board needs to decide where they want to go from there.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to procedural items, we are at the approval of the draft committee meetings minutes from the prior meeting. Any changes to the draft meeting minutes? No. Hearing no changes, the minutes will remain as posted. Moving on to acceptance of the grant from the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians.
Yes,
Christine.
so we're very appreciative of an allocation from the second half of the 2022 2% allocations. We were awarded $15,000 for the Student Support Network, basically for the summer outreach efforts. So they're looking at providing some academic and non-academic support over the summertime.
Excellent. Yes, thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Ms. Thomas Hill, I just want to clarify, do they decide where they want the 2% allocation to go, or does
We
TCAPS
submit
ask them?
We have to
Okay.
submit an application.
And I think we submitted, what, three maybe?
And one of the three was accepted. And they do this cycle twice a year, by the way.
Yep, I remember,
Yep.
yep. So it's like, this is the allocation, and then you submit 3 proposals, and they can fund any or all of
Yes.
those? And this is one that appealed to them the most. And you wrote here, this is a new initiative. It sounds terrific. Thank you.
All right. We will move on to quite a few bid services and purchases. Back to Christine.
So we'll start off with custodial supplies and then I'll turn it over to Cindy. Custodial supplies is an interesting purchase because not only does it involve service, it involves goods, the purchase of goods. And so we have opted to contact those suppliers that are part of a consortium and present an opportunity for them to propose to us an opportunity to run our services. So right now, we do work with Nichols and they've done a phenomenal job. They actually come into the areas that need product, do the inventory themselves and fill it. And so it's a nice service in addition to the purchase. So I'll let Cindy go through kind of what we asked of all of the different suppliers. And we decided to do this outreach because she's gotten quite a few sales calls of how can we potentially bid on this project. And so we kind of put together a list of high volume products to ask them to give us information. So I'll let her run through how that.
So, good evening. So we did do that initial analysis of just reaching out to a few of the vendors that were associated with purchasing cooperatives with a smaller list scope, just so we could see around about the price point for each of the vendors. And then, once we completed that analysis, we, the purchasing and facilities departments requested proposals of the custodial supplies, choosing 3 of the vendors that were associated with purchasing cooperatives. And just to kind of explain the reason for a purchasing cooperative, it just allows agencies such as ourselves to get the most competitive price up front. And it's negotiated for us. And it also check marks the box of meeting the requirements of a traditional bidding process. So, and it allows us to negotiate one-on-one with the vendor as well. So after sending the request for a proposal to 3 of the vendors with the higher volume products that we were talking about, that Christine was just talking about, we received 2 proposals. So with that being said, we are recommending that we go with a 3-year contract with Nichols, who is our current supplier. The 3-year contract also would include an optional 2 additional years if we deem it appropriate, if the service is satisfactory and the delivery is satisfactory, which it has been yet so far. So it's a potential for a 5-year contract with Nichols. The proposal that Nichols proposed had the lowest product cost. And then they also supply a 2% rebate based on our annual volume. Our annual volume is about 500,000 right now. So it allows the facilities department to be able to purchase equipment that would normally use bond funds. So it allows them to be able to get equipment on a yearly basis as well. So we are recommending that we choose Nichols for the 3-year, potential 5-year contract. They have a proven record. They're awesome to work with so far. And it's, what's the last part? Like I had mentioned before, it's about 500,000 spent, and it's out of general fund as well. So it's quite a bit of savings to go with Nichols, I would say, from the analysis.
And Nichols is our current contract, is what
Yes.
you said. And
Yes.
do you know what the rate on our current contract is? Is this an extension of, like, when you said it's about a $500,000 contract a year, is our current contract about a $500,000, or do you know?
Well, it's based on spend, so
Okay.
it just depends on, like,
How
when we
much you
were
spend.
in the COVID era, our spend was over $1 million.
Gotcha.
You know, so, and they did honor the percentage rebate with that total spend, so we were able to get quite a bit of equipment that year based on that total spend. But on average, on a normal year, it's about 500,000.
Okay.
It's a lot of mops.
A lot of miles.
A lot of chemicals.
I was looking at it, like
Bills.
627 mops. Yeah, God bless you.
Yeah, and that's the reason why we decided to use our higher volume products, because if we did everything, it would be an extremely long list for the same net out.
All right, any other questions? No objections. I suggest we move this to the full board under consent. Consent?
Concur.
Yes.
And then I apologize, I forgot to mention, we will obviously move the acceptance of the grant from the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians to the full board for consent as well. So,
Absolutely.
Thank you.
so moving on to the next item, which is Chromebooks. Evan.
Yeah, so this is our annual purchase for our 6th and 9th grade students. So we purchase their Chromebooks that they typically can carry with them for all 4 years of either middle school or high school career. And then those Chromebooks are often moved because their shelf life, meaning how long the operating system stays updated, is typically around 7. Google tends to kind of change that every once in a while. But then once those devices have went through that kind of student life, we move them into our spare pool, which they're used for a variety of purposes, testing and whatnot. So with these Chromebooks, we are going with Bloom, a company who uses the REMC Save consortium. So we know we get that bid price on the Dell 3110, which has been the Chromebook of choice we've had for the past year. It's served the students well, has been really reliable, so we're content to kind of move forward with that, continue that until the next update comes out and we can review those options. We're excited to partner with Bloom for this upcoming purchase. It's including an accidental protection warranty that actually comes in to provide us with some more accidental protection than we've had previously. But we send those devices to Bloom for those repairs. But we can also still continue our self-maintainer program with our students, which we're very proud of here at TCAPS, to do at that secondary level where the students and our student support technicians actually can order the parts and continue to repair those devices after that first year warranty. So yeah, with that, the cost of those devices, the warranty, the white glove service, which is all the unpackaging and enrolling them in our console, comes to a total of $879,784.29, which includes a 5% contingency, which we hopefully don't plan on using, but we always put that in there in case extra devices or things of that nature are needed after the.
I sure hope you're planning on ordering more cords. I think my kid alone has gone through 3. So.
Yeah, there's been lots of conversations about, the most effective ways to keep them powered up, provide that cord backup. So we're still in works on that because different options and opportunities are kind of coming out as we speak. It's been interesting to see the evolution of that. And
How often do you have to update the Chromebooks? Like, how often do you have to buy a new cycle?
we do the 6th and 9th grade will buy every year to get for those students for the incoming, they'll do that. And then on the elementary level, we'll try and do a wholesale replacement about every 5 years. Sometimes, and like I said, the actual life of the Chromebook is typically 7, where Google is updating them so they qualify for testing purposes, which is the main, one of the key components of keeping them in the students' hands and updated with the latest security. So we can usually push that, and that's why they remain in our spare pool. And they're still functional beyond that 7 years, but in terms of making sure we're up to date with our security policies and making sure, like I said, the testing, we try and limit that to the 7 years.
So what about the 4-year warranty compared to that 7-year lifespan? What do you do after that 4 years runs out? Do you just?
So we can usually still do some of the repairs within that self-maintainer program, and our technicians can order those parts and repair them. The 4-year accidental warranty is nice because then it covers any damages that are done as a student drops it. We can send that without any additional charge to the student or us to get those things repaired. So when that 4-year warranty goes up with the accidental protection expiring, we just have to look at what those costs might be and if it's worth repairing the device or not moving
And I'm
forward.
guessing it's probably an industry standard to have it be 4 years and not.
I don't
Yeah.
know that they offer anything.
Yeah, that's typically, we go the extra with 4 years because that's the lifespan we do. Usually, I think they'll start with a year. 3 years is pretty common with a lot of places. And then our typical ask, most vendors know with us, is we want that 4th year. So we look at what that cost difference is between going to 4 years. Just again, to maintain it with the life of the students so they don't have to worry about what that looks like, for their duration of use.
And I'm just curious, do you have a statistic on how many of our laptops actually make it to 7 years? Because I know how much wear and tear my own kids put on their Chromebooks.
I'm cracking up. I have 2 teenagers.
Right.
So.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't
Well,
have the
3
exact
actually.
statistic, but I can say when I first got here and we came into COVID, we were saved by the fact that the Dell 3120 was the model. It was actually on pace to be totally removed from our inventory. And then we had to distribute X amount, thousands of Chromebooks to all the students, and we happened to have them palleted up, ready to go. We unboxed them and got them all out because they still had that life within them. And so they last for a long time. And our repair program, and that's why, again, we choose the Dells. They're relatively easy to repair. We're certified as like a Dell repair shop, so to speak, with our students. So we like the fact that they are rugged, but they take a beating. We certainly lose some in the process, but it's surprisingly minimal with all the wear and tear they receive.
So do you buy, just because I'm new here, do you buy this amount, $1,700 every year?
Just about,
Yeah.
yeah. And we use based on projected enrollment numbers, and then we build in some spare costs. So it'll vary slightly, but yep, that's a pretty typical amount for that 6th and 9th grade deployment.
Wow.
Hopefully, because that means we want the students in here, so we want to keep that number up.
and most of it would be the middle schoolers, right? The rising sixth graders, because the ninth graders, that would be if they're transferring from out of district, I would presume.
Yeah, and I
All ninth graders get a new one, and then it lasts through their whole high school career.
Oh, okay, so I was thinking it was, you get it in sixth grade, and
No.
you had to have it for 7 years.
Sixth grade gets it for
Okay.
all of middle school,
Right,
and ninth grade
okay,
gets it for all of.
okay. That makes sense.
All right. This is a pretty typical purchase. I would suggest that we move it to the full board under consent as well.
I agree.
Yep.
The next item on the agenda is the East Middle School digital classroom studio renovations.
Yes, so we actually have a pretty robust program at East Middle School as it relates to digital media. And we were asked, I think probably about a year ago, to take a look at the old home ec rooms and do some remodeling. We did the same at West Middle School. Most of what they were asking for was a little bit more minimal, so our staff was able to do it, removing ovens, removing some cabinetry to make it a classroom. This is a little bit different to be able to expand on the digital media opportunities. And so we actually took this one as a project and went out for bid for it versus asking our staff to do it. And so I think Evan could probably speak a little bit to what kind of opportunities are in the classes, because he works pretty closely with the teacher at East Middle School.
Yeah, so Jody Mackey over at East Middle does a great job with kind of that program that she runs there in digital media, and looking at basically to keep the standard that she set in her current space, and what the opportunities are there for their the student, was it the Trojan News Network, I believe it's called, that they run and broadcast that both on YouTube and throughout the class. And so taking a look at that space in terms of what she would need to maintain that with, from my perspective, just the technology infrastructure that we need to do. There's a lot of opportunity in that space to build out and have that really ready to go. And it worked out very nicely in terms of kind of how that room just naturally breaks out to separate some of those spaces for in terms of broadcasting space, the technical, the editing room, office, and all that. So an exciting opportunity for her to kind of really solidify what she's really already doing an excellent job of over at East Middle.
Remind me, what is VPAA? Is that
Visual
performing
and
arts?
Performing Applied Arts. And so there is an annual allocation as part of our 2018 bond for that program, and it's split between music, STEM, it's called language arts, but that includes digital media.
Digital
And
media,
art.
language arts, and art. Correct.
And so then there's it just says it's funded from both capital bond and the allocation.
Yeah, so 50,000 will come out of VPAA, and the remainder will be out of the capital bond fund. Unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of bids come in higher than we budgeted, and really, I think higher than is necessary, but given the current market, it is what it is.
Did I miss, was there a breakdown for the digital clock component of this?
No, this is the room renovations.
Okay.
Yeah, we did digital clocks last
That was
time.
last month.
Yeah, I remember that. I thought I saw something in the memo that used the term digital clocks too, and,
If it did, I didn't catch that.
okay, might be my mistake.
I did the same thing earlier today, so.
Okay. I know, I was
Or
thinking back to
yesterday.
like
Yesterday.
top line electrics, 2 digital clocks. No, it's my mistake. I apologize.
Yep. I did the same thing, literally.
I'm like, wait, we already did that
Yep.
one.
That was last
Yep.
month.
Small minds think alike.
Yep.
Any other questions on the digital classroom renovation? Hearing no objections, I again would recommend we move this to the full board for consent
Sounds good.
agenda. Moving on to Eastern Elementary additional pre-K lockers.
Yeah, so we actually have the opportunity through our community service, childcare funds, and a grant that we were awarded to add additional lockers. We have We have a pretty robust preschool program, actually 2 full classrooms. And because we have students that sometimes are 5 days a week and some are 3, and the parents want to leave extra snow pants and boots, we're really struggling with space inside the classroom and their cubbies. Fortunately, the eastern hallways are wide enough that we can still add lockers dedicated to the preschool classrooms for those extra items and keep the hallways a little bit less cluttered. And we're using the same locker style, but bigger from floor to, I think it's about 6 feet, just to be able to provide that storage space that's enclosed and clean. So it'll be nice for the preschool staff.
With step stools for the kids
Yeah.
to reach 6
Well, they
feet
can reach
high.
the bottom parts. But yeah, sometimes they end up with slippers, boots. Yeah, you could probably tell me, because I think you,
Half of my house is there.
Yeah.
Eastern.
Mine too.
yeah. So,
My daughter will just throw her
Yeah.
coat up. She tries to get the hook with her hood there, so the height won't deter her.
yeah. So it's a necessity, and fortunately, there's money from a grant, and they fit within the hallway to still meet code, so it'll be a nice addition.
Happening in the summer won't impact school. So
No.
perfect.
So is that a state grant, the Community Service Fund's childcare program?
Yes.
Nice.
It's
right.
the same grant that we used for the extra playground equipment.
All right. Hearing no objections, I will suggest again that we move this to the full board under consent agenda.
Okay.
And we will move on to the big ticket item.
The big ticket
of
item.
the
All
bus
right, so
wash.
transportation. So as we've been talking for several months, this went out for bid. Actually pretty pleased that it came in under bid, under our anticipated budget, so that's good news. One of the things that we did, because we're going with a construction manager, is bids are by trade instead of one general contractor bidding everything. There's a philosophy that saves money in the end. But anyway, you can see who bid. There's a couple things I just wanted to note on here, because it might just kind of stick out as something a little bit odd. There was a couple of contracts that looked possibly like they might not be low bid, but there was some stipulations with that. So I'll start with the asphalt paving. Within Elmer's bid, their base bid amount, which was $703,077, they actually had a disclaimer in their base bid that if they were also awarded the category site work, that there would be a discount of $82,800, which is why they are low bid in the category asphalt paving.
Okay.
And I did include in the memo, but just so that you're aware, in the back of your packet, there is an itemization for finishing the paving of the facilities lot, and that was $177,500. So we are recommending that we do that at the same time as the rest of the transportation lot.
Yeah, so that was probably one of my main questions was
Yeah.
just I know when we talked about this a couple months ago, there was the discussion about do we wait and do some
Yeah.
of the lot? or
And
the
at that
whole lot?
time, we
Yeah.
had budgeted about 400,000, but as the site engineer got into it deeper, there's actually no water retention or anything needed on that side, and so any underground work is not necessary on the facility side. That's why you're seeing such a low cost. We were originally talking about 400,000, which then I could see it being an item to have discussion about separating it out. And we've got an excellent relationship with Elmer's. They do incredible work.
Other questions? So just to clarify the budget, the initial budget that's on like the spreadsheet that we have all of our projects was 6 million?
6 million. And 2 of that came from bus sales, so 4 out of the total capital bond. And so we're looking at a total ask of 5.2, but that includes a 10% contingency. So anything not spent would go back to the capital bond project allocations available to allocate elsewhere.
And the 5.2 also includes the add-on for the
Yes,
maintenance
and
lot.
it's all in, so it includes all of our services. Sometimes those are budgeted ahead of time, and so we wouldn't bring them forward all as one. usually what we would do is come to you with the total construction cost, which I think was 4 point,
385?
yes. So normally that's what we would come back as, but because, this project was budgeted in total as 6, we wanted to show the full amount with all the services, which is the construction management, and the architect and engineering.
And those architects and engineering fees, we've probably already incurred, correct? Okay.
And could you just remind us, what other construction projects has Miller Davis been the construction manager for?
Eastern, Montessori, West Senior High Athletic Complex, Trojan Athletic Complex, Thurlby Field, turf replacement,
Okay.
and they're doing, they're the construction manager on our bond pre-planning.
So obviously you've had a good experience with them.
Yes.
All right. This is to go to full board for discussion.
I would suggest this probably goes to full board for discussion. We've only ever talked about it here, right?
No, we've talked about it in the full
Yeah,
board.
we've talked about it in the full board, so.
But you could put it on discussion if there
I
isn't
think-
one, there isn't
yeah.
a.
Just
Yeah, I
the
mean, I
large
think we'll just
Yeah.
because of
item.
the, yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Five.
I was
something
pleased. I
million
thought it came in
dollars.
at a great price. I think it allows us to have a first-class facility. As I've been out there more and more, with my bus driving certificate out there hanging out, I can tell you it's a mud pit.
Mhm.
I mean, it is, you are in that much mud and water, buses stuck. It's time to make that facility a long-term,
Yeah.
valid facility. And as we look maybe to the future with electric, buses, things like that, having everything in standing water and mud is not going to work. So I think this is definitely a good move. And as I look at other districts, like districts on that list, Janice and others, I've had the chance to drive through, and they have great transportation facilities that have sewer, that have pavement. And so at this point, it's definitely a strong thing, I think, to get done.
This bid does include one row of buses, providing conduit underneath the contract, so underneath the, concrete, so that if we wanted to move forward with any kind of electric, we had access and didn't have to bust the concrete up again.
Yeah, that was one of the options you were
Yep.
interested in. Okay.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, so we'll just move this to full board for discussion. Moving on to the West Senior High weight room renovations, Dr. Van Wagner.
Yeah, I'll talk this. Paul's not here, and so I've been working with him only because in former lives I've done this many times. So the weight room area of all of the fitness area at West Senior High, if you had the chance to be there, it is overpacked, almost to the point where it's not safe. We run over 850 students in that facility every day, and the square footage of that room is about half the size of what Central High School is, to give you an idea. So one of the things to take a look at it, Joe Esper has, multiple times since I've been here, this was on the discussions of renovations to the weight room originally, when the bond was passed, to sit and say, what can we do looking at. So as we sat and talked with engineers, looked at it with Paul, what we had is we have a locker room that's behind it. One of the things when that building was built, there was a lot of locker room capacity that was built. And really some that was designed for some sports only, that really hasn't been utilized like it was originally designed. And so as we started to look, we asked the question is, there's about a 2,800 square foot locker room directly behind that weight room that could be used if we had enough space for locker space. So working with Joe definitely felt like that was an option that was doable. I've had the chance to go over multiple times and ensure that the one locker room that really isn't being used will become more of a main locker room now, closer to the athletic director's office. And what that allows us to do is take out that back wall. There are some beams there that have to remain, but it opens up a large area that would able to have all that lockers and all of that to be taken out, renovated, and it will double the space of that facility. So in doing so, there's some showers there that we would put doors over. That way it actually would be areas now that could be used for storage, because they have hurdles all over the place. There's weight bars, there's all sorts of things that their kids are using and bringing there, a part of their athletic performance. And so this would allow that to expand. It would put a rubberized flooring in it. That way that because it's concrete underneath, so that weights hit it, doesn't crack a floor, doesn't, cause an injury, anything from that standpoint. And so it will make a facility that is a very, very first-class facility and very, very comparable to the same facility that we have for our students on the other side of town. And so this is the project that we have moving forward, and Paul's done a great job of getting everything lined up for it, and so we are ready to be able to award this and move forward with this to start this summer, to hopefully get done, and for them to be able in the start of the fall to move. They've already got contingencies to move that area for summer work. Some of that, they would have plans to move all the weight equipment and everything out of it here at the end of the school year, and to be able to get this done through the summer. Any questions?
Right?
Do they use, I don't have the course catalog memorized, but do they use this for phys ed too?
Oh, yes, they run 6 sections all day, and they have kids in the gym, kids in there, all in this area, and it is literally shoulder to shoulder in this room every hour of the day. Many times we have, it's about 2,500 square foot now, I want to say, and there are many times that we have 70, 80 kids in there at once.
Weights and conditioning is the class you're looking for.
Yes.
It's very popular.
Personal fitness.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I just want to say too that there's a reason the University of Michigan football team chose Central High School's weight room to work out in last summer, and we need to be
Despite-
competitive on the west side.
Despite
so,
two Traverse City
yeah.
West alumni on the team.
So
They
little
weren't
crosstown
very happy
rivalry.
about it. Any questions?
No.
Okay, hearing no objections or additional questions, suggestion to move this forward to the full board for consent agenda.
Just yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thanks.
All right, moving on to the last topic under bid services and purchases, a request for additional funding for the Central High School tennis courts.
Yes, so having had the opportunity, you will remember that we brought to the board this project in the fall, where we had both the West Athletic tennis courts as well as Central plan of more of a renovation of repair at West High School that was able to be done in the fall before snow flew. And then this spring would be starting the tennis courts at Central High School. So as we've had the chance to go through the project and really look deeply at it, one of the things that was interesting in the design of the Central tennis courts, at the time it was common, it's all about water flow and sloping, okay? And so the way that the tennis courts at West are done, all of it is set at a crown, so when water hit, it dissipates from one end to the other. And there's ditches essentially and sewer and storm sewer drains at West for that water to flow into. At Central, it was done exactly the opposite, that for every 2 courts it sloped to the middle, and there was a drain set in the middle of every 2 courts along that. Well, if you look at the facility, what happened is, as heaving and different things happened, you would start to see where those drains are, weeds and stuff would come up in the middle of it. So a lot of those pictures and things you saw of the cracks and the weeds sticking up were in every one of those low-level areas where those drains were. So after awarding the bid, we had the chance to meet with Reith Riley at the site, talk through, and they did confirm they have not built for years a tennis court that sloped inwards. They say it's just not in design practice, anything. It's essentially, they do everything like West tennis courts are. So what our hope is that we wouldn't have any kind of issue in when they, because they are completely tearing those out and redoing that. The design that is there and the thought was to have that water dissipate. Our problem is that on those edges where the water dumps off to, it's generally, especially towards the school, it's an area that people stand generally. And with soil testing in that area, it really is not an area that the water will just simply dissipate into the ground. So what we've recognized is, as we have that tore up and we have the storm sewer system there, we need to put some tile and rock and areas along there to have that water properly drain into the storm sewer system that's there. And so we have an additional cost with that, that's there. Remind me, the cost was?
Well, it's 75,000, then we added the 10%
Yep,
contingency.
yep, with that. So at this point, to do it right and to be able to have that there, we are asking to increase that, to be able to have that proper drainage for that facility and to be able to have that approved, to be able to move forward as soon as the ground is dry for them to be able to start demolition and to get that project done with that proper drainage.
So I'm maybe a little confused by the memo. So the original amount that we approved was 636,000, and we're moving now to.
740,
740.
including contingency in both.
Okay, gotcha.
So it's actually an increase of 95,000
That's correct.
without the contingency and $104,000,
With.
yeah, with the contingency.
That's correct. I will tell you that the West Senior High courts turned out great, really, really nice. I know the team, the coach, everybody, AD, everybody's really happy with them. And so this will create also that first-class facility. And we have great tennis programs at both schools. And so it really will give a first-class facility, which really will put, you know, the cap on just outstanding outdoor athletic facilities at both schools for a long time.
And it was the same contractor? Right?
Different contractor, just because that was just a resurfacing company that did that. This is a complete tear down, re-add, new asphalt, new surfacing from that.
So their season is being displaced, right?
That is correct.
Where are they? Do they have somewhere to go?
Middle school, we have courts
Okay.
at both middle schools. They know that. I've had the chance personally to sit with the coaches. They 100% agreed with moving forward with that concept. They would prefer to have 1 year to be, you know, the spring. It's pretty much the spring season, and summer program will have to be at East Middle School. But they're prepared for that and ready to move forward.
Yeah, and just to be equitable on the gender front, it was the boys' tennis team inconvenienced at West in the fall, and now it's the girls' tennis team.
Being
At
competitive
Central.
today, Jesse.
Perfect. Any other questions on tennis courts? Hearing no objections, I again suggest that we move this to the full board for consent.
Sounds good.
All right, moving on to informational items. First item is the operations capital project update.
Yes, so Paul prepared this before he left. And he gave me notes and I just misplaced them.
And left, we mean vacation, not left permanently.
Just show us.
Oh, yeah.
Just
Sorry.
just scroll through the
Clarification.
pictures.
No, that
Just
would
to be
that would have
clear.
been a bigger
Right,
conversation.
just to be clear.
Where are my notes? Oh my lord. Okay, I'm gonna wing it. I just had them.
Take your time.
Well, there's so much.
I know.
Here we go. All right, so he provided some pictures, and I think Josie will notice that these were probably taken a week ago because we started our tours with board members yesterday, so she got to see some of the changes. So the main office is one of the areas that is needed for completion. We were there yesterday, and all the trim's already up, so it's already looking different. But that's one of the last items. They stored a lot of furniture in this room, so they're kind of cleaning and exiting the building through the main area. They are working on, or have just completed, the cafeteria flooring. This was another area that we were staging furniture. So that's been complete. Looks like they're starting to put together the cafeteria tables. And before that'll be the final cleaning process. And classroom furniture, so the architect, the interior designers come in and they actually will set up the classrooms once the final cleaning takes place with all of the classroom furniture that was purchased based on the renderings that we did with teachers on where they wanted it located. And then you can see we didn't enter any of these rooms because I didn't want to personally get a fine. So when it's final clean, they mark it so that contractors don't go back in there. But those are ready for interior designers to come in, unbox all the furniture, take inventory, and then start setting them up for classroom use. And just so you're aware, for Montessori, the move of the building will take place the week of June
19th.
19th. So likely teachers will be in there the end of June, early July, setting up classrooms. and we'll actually begin the inspections with the state of Michigan. Was really hoping to be able to get some LARA inspections done for preschool and toddler. They won't come and actually do any of the inspections until the classroom is set up with all of the materials to run the program. So we're gonna have to delay that, but we still have time before September, so. And the gym, which is pretty impressive. As you remember, we decided to increase the square footage to have a competitive sized gym, so this is the same size as what you'd see at a high school. West Athletic Complex, so they're working on outfield and backstop fence posts. And then the field house is ready for roofing. So this is ticketing concessions, a small locker room, and an area for the, do they call them umpires? Am I getting that right?
You are.
Okay.
What is it?
Referees and umpires.
Yeah. So there's a small changing space available for them.
Is the inverted roof design intentional for the snow?
It is.
Okay.
It's, it was a very lengthy conversation that Dr. Van Wagner joined us in.
Okay.
There's pros and cons to doing it this way and not, and there's definitely expense related, and so, this was designed with an additional, it's got additional drainage provided to move the water. So that's what it looks, so they'll, all of, spectators will enter through here, and get their tickets and then proceed on to the sidewalk. So it's a nice, overall entry space, kind of like we developed at Trojan Athletic Complex. Then we have Traverse Heights, so this is still the North Ed addition. We won't start our project until school lets out in June. So they have temp heat in, they're working on the inside now. All of the exterior brickwork is done. And they are prepping for interiors floor slabs, so that's scheduled for this week.
And again, just for clarity, this is the intermediate school district North Ed's part, and then we're doing the front secure vestibule, as Christine said, this fall, or this summer.
And then I had a finance update on here, and there's not a lot of new information. Usually in March, we're able to take a look at the governor's proposal, the House and the Senate. We haven't heard anything from the House and the Senate just yet, but we have taken a look at the governor's proposal. To the best that we understand, given the information provided, this is how we anticipate the governor's proposal, if that is selected for the state budget. This is how it would impact TCAPS. And we did include the difference of losing 190 students and 150. We are recommending that the budget start with a negative 150 of students, but if something happens and we're actually negative 190, it would look a little bit different. So it's about a $380,000 difference for 40 students. This includes a lot of categoricals that we do have now and the expenses associated with it. There's a couple that don't appear to be in her budget, but not really sure based on how she worded some other categoricals. So obviously there's still some unknowns there. And again, this is just the first of the process to really take a look at the two other proposals and how it ends up. Unfortunately, I don't think we will see anything anytime real soon from Senate or House. But we'll keep an eye on it.
$458 increase, that is a little under 5% of an increase, right?
That, it is 5%, so that is the governor's proposal.
Yeah.
And some of the categories, 5%, sometimes the 5% seems, may seem like a good number, but when you look at some of our categoricals, I know on the rural transportation, it was like 36 grand extra. It's not earth-shattering money, unfortunately.
There's just a lot of unknowns of some of the things she has in there that I think a lot of us don't think is practical to get done in the timeframes and thing. I mean, big ticket items, $200 million for a summer tutoring program with a 50% match, but they might not pass it until May or June. You know, how do you do that? You know, so there's just, and that's a big number, right? So there are some real big number dollars that are in things that we don't know are practical or that the House and Senate may have different ideas on. You know, we know that they're gonna have to work with Republicans in the Senate to get immediate effect, you know, on some of it. So, you know, it could drastically change still, but it also could stay pretty close to this. So a lot of unknowns of a lot of money still in the mix right now.
And that grant cycle for the SROs, that,
Was not included in the governor's new budget.
yeah, so,
It's a one-time payment
Yeah.
to last for 3 years for us.
right. That's surprising.
You know,
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things that she didn't include. So that's all I have for finance update. As soon as we get more information, happy to provide it and do some comparisons between the three proposals.
Thank you. If no other questions on finance, we do have a closed session. So we are now at the closed session portion of our agenda. May I have a motion for the committee to go into closed session?
I move to enter into closed session under Section 8(1)H of the Michigan Open Meetings Act, MCL 15.268(1)H, to discuss contents of an attorney-client privilege communication exempt from disclosure under the Michigan Freedom of Information Act, and to consider a privileged written attorney-client communication, attorney communication dated February 27th, 2023, as allowed by Section 8H of the Open Meetings Act.
Agreed. I second.
Second. Perfect. Any discussion? If not, Julie, can you please conduct a roll call vote?
Sure. Trustee Ballinger,
Yes.
Trustee Byrd,
Yes.
and Trustee Raymond.
Yes. All right.
We're set up
Motion
now.
in the
carries.
other room.
Yeah.
My name is Fred Cook, and I drive school bus.
My name is Leanne Murchie, and I'm a school bus driver for TCAPS. It's been a very wonderful experience.
When I first hired in, one of the previous bus drivers told me that this particular job, driving school bus, is the best job on earth. So I immediately took to it, and I have to agree that this is one of the best jobs that anyone can do.
What prompted me in the very beginning, I have a college degree, and she said, you're in the safest vehicle in the world on the road. So I thought, well, you know, I'm gonna try. Because I would be on the same time schedule as my own children. And when they were off, I was off. When holidays, I was there. So it was the best of both worlds. TCAPS offers jobs elsewhere within the system.
Between routes, I used to, for 12, 13 years, I did lunch duty over at East Middle School, and now I paint.
They're real good about finding people the hours that they need during the course of the day to make the job great. We have Mesa Insurance, the whole district has it. It's awesome, it's the best health insurance. We offer a 401k. There's a sign-on bonus. It's a win-win situation.
The most important thing, I think, coming to work at TCAPS is you understand you understand that you are part of a team. It's a part of a collective. You know, it's not just bus drivers and then versus teachers. It's not that. We all are in this thing called education together.
If a person likes kids, generally likes kids, this is a perfect job.
So I'm talking to kids all day, and that experience is really heartwarming, and I continue to understand what it means to be a part of the community.
You are an educator. You have a chance to touch children's lives every day. And don't think that you don't. You are such an important part of the wheel of education.
My name is Fred Cook, and I drive school bus.
My name is Leanne Murchie, and I'm a school bus driver for TCAPS. It's been a very wonderful experience.
When I first hired in, one of the previous bus drivers told me that this particular job, driving school bus, is the best job on earth. So I immediately took to it, and I have to agree that this is one of the best jobs that anyone can do.
What prompted me in the very beginning, I have a college degree, and she said, you're in the safest vehicle in the world on the road. So I thought, well, I'm gonna try. Because I would be on the same time schedule as my own children. And when they were off, I was off. When holidays, I was there. So it was the best of both worlds. TCAPS offers jobs elsewhere within the system.
Between routes, I used to, for 12, 13 years, I did lunch duty over at East Middle School, and now I paint.
They're real good about finding people the hours that they need during the course of the day to make the job great. We have Mesa Insurance. The whole district has it. It's awesome. It's the best health insurance. We offer a 401k. There's a sign-on bonus. It's a win-win situation.
The most important thing, I think, coming to work at TCAPS is you understand that you are a part of a team. It's a part of a collective. It's not just bus drivers and then versus teachers. It's not that. We all are in this thing called education together.
If a person generally likes kids, this is a perfect job.
So I'm talking to kids all day, and that experience is really heartwarming, and I continue to understand what it means to be a part of the community.
You are an educator. You have a chance to touch children's lives every day. And don't think that you don't. You are such an important part of the wheel of education.
My name is Fred Cook, and I drive school bus.
My name is Leanne Murchie, and I'm a school bus driver for TCAPS. It's been a very wonderful experience.
When I first hired in, one of the previous bus drivers told me that this particular job, driving school bus, is the best job on earth. So I immediately took to it, and I have to agree that this is one of the best jobs that anyone can do.
What prompted me in the very beginning, I have a college degree, and she said, you're in the safest vehicle in the world on the road. So I thought, well, you know, I'm gonna try. Because I would be on the same time schedule as my own children. And when they were off, I was off. When holidays, I was there. So it was the best of both worlds. TCAPS offers jobs elsewhere within the system.
Between routes, I used to, for 12, 13 years, I did lunch duty over at East Middle School, and now I paint.
They're real good about finding people the hours that they need during the course of the day to make the job.
If there
go.
is no objection, we will return to open session.
No objection.
We are now in open session. So we will add another item to the full board meeting, which will be ratification of the settlement agreement as presented.
And we will also recommend a closed session for the full board to review.
Closed session to review the attorney-client privilege documents that we just did. Perfect. All right. Any other discussion on that?
Nope.
Okay. Any other items for the committee?
Nope.
All right. We will adjourn and meet again on April 5th at 4:30. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.